They call me the Abacus. Not to my face, of course. To my face, it's Mr. Rossi. But I hear the whispers. They think it's funny. The quiet guy in the back room. The one who makes the numbers dance. While they're out there, breaking legs and making headlines, I am the one making sure the whole operation doesn't collapse under the weight of its own greed. I am the foundation, the silent partner in every score, every deal, every unfortunate accident. For 20 years, I've served the Falcone family. I've counted every dirty dollar, laundered it so clean you could eat off it, and made sure Don Falcone's pockets were always overflowing. And what do I have to show for it? A decent house in a neighborhood I can't talk about my job in. A car that doesn't draw too much attention. Respect, sure, the kind you give to a tool. A useful, reliable tool. But they don't see the mind behind the ledgers. They see a calculator with a pulse. They see a guy who's good with numbers, not a guy who understands the real number. The one that represents your final worth. I've watched young, reckless punks climb the ladder, their ambition fueled by bravado and blood. They get the glory, the girls, the fear in people's eyes. I get a pat on the back and another stack of receipts smelling of cheap cigars and desperation. I'm tired of being the foundation. I want to be the skyscraper. And I've realized, after all these years of balancing their books, that the only way to get what you're truly worth is to take it. But I'm not a thug. I don't use a gun. I use a pen. My weapon is information. And for the past year, I've been aiming it at the biggest target in the city, the Grimaldi family, our sworn rivals. Don Falcone would have my head if he knew. He thinks our war is fought in the streets. He's wrong. The real war, the one that matters, is fought on balance sheets. And I'm about to launch the single most devastating financial attack this city has ever seen. The Grimaldis, our old school, they trust tradition more than technology. They believe a handshake is stronger than encryption. They're fools. Their entire financial empire, from the docks to their offshore accounts, is a fortress built on sand, and I've found the cracks. It started with a whisper. A disgruntled driver. A guy they short-changed on a big haul. He wasn't important. Just a cog. But cogs have access. For a few grand, he told me about their cash collection routes. Not the big armored trucks, but the small, daily pickups. Restaurants, laundromats, clubs, the lifeblood. That was my entry point. I started tracking the patterns. I'm an accountant, remember? Patterns are my language. I saw the rhythm of the city in their collections. I knew which days were heavy, which were light. I cross-referenced it with public records, event schedules, even weather reports. A rainy Tuesday meant lower foot traffic, less cash. A sunny Saturday with a game on. A gold mine. I built a predictive model. It was beautiful. A symphony of data that told me exactly where their money would be, and when. But knowing where the cash isn't enough. You can't just hit a dozen locations at once. That's loud, messy. That's their style, not mine. I needed something surgical. I needed to get inside their central nervous system, their counting house. The Grimaldis have a produce import company down by the port. Grimaldi's Fresh Harvest. It's the perfect front. Trucks, in and out all day. The noise, the chaos. It's all cover. Inside that warehouse, behind a steel door and two guys who look like they eat rocks for breakfast, is where every dollar from their street operations gets counted, bundled, and prepped for laundering. My plan isn't to break down the door. It's to be invited in. I spent months studying their operations from the outside, but I needed an inside man. Not a thug for hire. Someone smarter. Someone overlooked. Just like me, I found him in their accounting department. A young kid named Leo. Ambitious, sharp, but stuck doing payroll for dock workers. I saw myself in him 20 years ago. I watched him for weeks. I learned his routine, his habits, his frustrations. He gambled, not big, but enough to be in a hole. A small, manageable hole. So, I had a little chat with his bookie. Anonymously, of course. I arranged for Leo's debt to be amplified. Suddenly, His small hole became a canyon. The pressure mounted. One night, I accidentally bumped into him at a coffee shop he frequented. I was just another guy in a suit, complaining about my own boss. We got to talking. I listened to his problems. I told him he was too smart for his position, that people like us, the number guys, we're the ones with the real power. If only we had the guts to use it. I planted the seed. A week later, I sent him an anonymous email. It detailed a simple, elegant way for him to skim a tiny percentage off a specific international transaction. Untraceable, if done right. I gave him the whole method. It was a test, a way to see if he had the nerve, the precision. The money disappeared from the Grimaldi account and appeared in a ghost account I controlled. He did it. He took the bait. Now, he was mine. He didn't know who I was, only that some mysterious benefactor was his ticket out of debt. Through him, I got the final pieces of the puzzle. Security protocols, rotation schedules, the software they used. It was antique. A custom-built system from the late 90s. A digital dinosaur. And I am the asteroid. My plan is set for next Thursday. It's the end of the month. The day their cash flow is at its absolute peak. All their tribute, all their earnings, all their dirty secrets converted into paper will be sitting in that counting house. Leo's job is simple. 15 minutes before the evening shift change, he will plug a small, harmless-looking USB drive into his terminal. He thinks it's a program to skim a larger amount for himself. His final big score before he disappears. He doesn't know that drive contains my masterpiece. A virus. Not the kind that deletes files or crashes systems. This one is far more subtle. It won't trigger any alarms. It will simply rewrite a single line of code in their master ledger software. For a period of exactly 90 seconds, it will change the destination account for all outgoing electronic transfers. Instead of routing to their various laundering fronts in the Caymans and Switzerland, it will route every single cent to a series of layered, encrypted accounts. I've spent the last 6 months setting up a digital maze so complex that by the time they realize what's happened, the money will have been sliced, diced, and reconstituted a dozen times over, finally settling in a place where no one will ever find it. My place. And the cash, the physical mountain of it. Then the counting house. That's the diversion. While their system is being digitally bled dry, a small fire will break out in a garbage dumpster 2 blocks away. An anonymous tip will call it in as a potential car bomb, citing a rival gang. The entire port will go into lockdown. Chaos. Panic. The Grimaldis will think it's an attack by the Falcones. Don Falcone will think the Grimaldis are making a move. They'll be at each other's throats, pointing guns and screaming accusations. And in the middle of it all, I'll be sitting in a hotel room miles away, watching a progress bar on my laptop. 90 seconds. That's all it takes to dismantle an empire. Once the transfer is complete, the virus will erase itself, leaving behind a ghost. They'll eventually find the discrepancy. They'll tear their systems apart. They'll blame hackers. They'll blame each other. They'll torture poor Leo, who knows nothing. They'll look everywhere except at the quiet accountant from the other side of town. Why am I doing this? It's not just about the money. Although, let's be honest, it will be a glorious amount of money. More than I could ever spend. It's about the art. It's about proving that the mind is mightier than the muscle. That a well-placed decimal point can be more devastating than a dozen hitmen. They built their kingdoms on fear and violence. I'm going to take it all away with logic and precision. They won't even see the blade that cuts them. After Thursday, Mr. Rossi, the abacus, will cease to exist. He'll just retire. Take an early, well-deserved vacation, and someone else, someone with a new name and a very, very comfortable life, will be born. He'll be sitting on a beach somewhere, sipping something expensive, and watching the news as 2 titans of the underworld tear each other apart over a ghost. They'll never know that the war wasn't won in the streets. It was won in a spreadsheet, and the victor was just a humble accountant. Their humble accountant. And that, my friends, is the most beautiful number of all. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow 4 more stories from the shadows.